Hello, and welcome back to the SQ5R Reading Strategy video series. This third installment of the individual videos covers the read portion of the reading strategy. Now, as we discussed before, when you go back to read the chapter, I want you to take it in small chunks, maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs at a time. What's important is to know your own limitations, know how far you can get into the particular text before you start to drag, before you start to fade in your attention, before you can feel your mind wandering. Because remember, we're not just trying to power through this thing like we would a novel for entertainment. We're really trying to dissect it for the concepts and the objectives to be taken from the reading. One way I like to do this is just look for the natural breaks in the chapter. So you see here we have this overview section right here, and there's 3 paragraphs here, and then we get to history. This might be a nice little chunk here to read and then stop and then begin the respond and recite record portion of the SQ5R, because remember, what you're going to learn in the next videos is those steps are kind of interwoven with the reading step, because we're not going to read this entire chapter in one shot. We're going to read it in small chunks. So we'll focus on this 3 paragraphs right here, and in the next couple videos I'll show you how to apply those other steps to this. Now obviously I'm not going to just sit here and read these paragraphs out loud in the video, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to read them and be ready to talk about them as they apply to the other steps. But what I wanted to show is my process between how I decide where I'm going to cut off naturally or what I'm going to read in one sitting. So one chunk would be this overview. Another chunk would be this history portion. You see it's a nice manageable chunk there, maybe about 4 paragraphs. And then I'll break where it starts the ontology. That way I can take that all as one section, and then when I'm ready, I'll move on. And this textbook's great with having these big bold headings. Now you'll see this section is pretty big, right? So now as I'm scaling down, look how far we have to go to application. So what I would do is I would take each one of these numbered steps as a stopping point. So I would start with Kant's ontology under this heading, and I would read down to number 1, universality. So my breaking point would be this nice little gap right here, and then I would read universality on its own, and then I would read respect for persons on its own, and that would take me down to application. So hopefully that makes sense. Just take it in small, manageable chunks, but try to keep those chunks related to each other. It helps when they're just not random, one paragraph from the end of one idea and another paragraph from the beginning of another. Keep them related chunks so that way the information makes sense together. And then once you've read a portion, what we're going to do is move on to the next step of the SQ5R reading strategy, which is to respond to the reading.